into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So it's bothered me ever since yesterday when we talked about it on the show. It kind of stuck there in the back of my brain and irritated me and made me feel like maybe we as America, maybe we as American adults were missing something, and missing something very important. What I'm talking about is people who are essentially our leaders. Doesn't matter which side of the political fence you fall down on. One of your leaders was represented in this rather hideous exchange. Joe Biden talking about Donald Trump, saying if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Joe Biden, the great white hope for the Democratic Party, said this whilst talking in Florida. Children marching through the streets of our country, looking for some hope, looking for a chance to do something that contributes to stopping of violence in high schools after something especially horrific happened in a high school in Florida. And in a Florida high school in Florida, Biden talks about beating the hell out of somebody behind the gym in high school. In the spirit of two wrongs not making it right, Donald Trump weighed in as well, tweeting, crazy Joe Biden is trying to act like a tough guy. Actually, he's weak both mentally and physically, and yet he threatens me for the second time with physical assault. He doesn't know me, but he would go down fast and hard, crying all the way. Our leaders. One president of these United States of America, leader of the free world. The other one, the opposition's greatest hope at regaining power at the moment. I mean, that changes all the time. But these are folks that are meant to lead. These are folks that are meant to be up on some sort of pedestal, if only by example. Meanwhile, children marching through the streets of America saying, we just want a chance at a non-violent life when we go into school. We want to feel safe. And these guys are talking about beating the crap out of each other behind the gym. And you know, there's a lot that's said about kids. Oh, the Tide Pod generation. Oh, millennials. Oh, they want everything handed to them. Pot, kettle black, glass houses, stones. Don't be throwing them. It's not like the elderly gentlemen that we mentioned earlier, men in their 70s, are providing much of a counterpoint. It's not like they represent hope for a more sensible version of the dialogue that's been happening recently. Now, is it? And, you know, I was encouraged. I was encouraged because as much as people write kids off these days as millennials, people that want everything handed to them, people that are scared of a hard day's work, the Tide Pod generation, and on and on and on. People that are willing to do anything to get extra likes on Instagram and extra views on YouTube and all of the above. More shares on Facebook. People are so dismissive of these kids. But I came across something that's very encouraging with regard to bullying. I don't know if you caught this or not, but the whole bullying issue has been a big topic for about a decade. But has all the awareness actually produced results? Apparently, the answer is a big yes. And that's why I say this is encouraging stuff. The Department of Education recently released new data from 2015 that wasn't available until now. And there's been a pretty huge drop in bullying since a similar survey they did back in 2007. Back then, 32% of kids between the ages of 12 and 18 said they'd been bullied or were currently being bullied. And by 2015, that number had fallen to 21%. So in less than 10 years, bullying, on paper anyway, dropped by more than a third. Now, numbers are encouraging, but the reality of what causes a drop-off in bullying is more so. Just because, do you know what bullying can't stand up to? You know what makes a bully stop bullying? A voice of dissent. Someone saying, that's not the right thing to do. It's been shown over and over and over again. You want to stop a bully being a bully? You go, hey, don't do that. That's not okay. And in the vast majority of the situations, that will dissipate the situation. And these kids that we're so dismissive of, these kids that are looking for a shot, these kids that are understandably feeling a little bit shaky about a world led by 70-year-old men that are talking about going behind the gym and beating the crap out of each other, these kids are, in some way, shape, or form, affecting some change moving forward by standing up and talking about what's right and what they believe in. And that, my friend, that gives me more than a little bit of hope.
Let's start the show. Real radio.
104.1. Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
So there's a politician, a Texas politician, that wants to charge men $100 for every single time they do not successfully, Seinfeld watchers will appreciate the reference, master their domain, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. Travis, do we have the information on this one? I think we should talk about this a little bit on the show.
Yeah, the self-love bill, she knows it's not going anywhere. Okay, the bill that she's proposed, her name is Jessica Farrar. It doesn't matter. She's a Democrat, and the name of the bill is A Man's Right to Know Act, which is poking fun at a woman's right to know, which is the pamphlet that a doctor has to give a woman before the abortions.
Let's bottom line this. Let's get into it a little later. We'll figure out all the whys and wherefores. But ultimately, she is suggesting that every time a guy wants to indulge in the old five-knuckle shuffle, there should be $100 fee.
Yeah.
should cost you $100 a pop. Pun absolutely not intended. So we'll get into that a little later on in the show. Right now, though, let's talk about the rubber ducky. Did you grow up with a rubber ducky, Travis?
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I've still got some.
Oh, rubber ducky, you're the one. You make bath time lots of fun. Rubber ducky, I'm awfully fond of you. Bo-bo-bo-de-o, rubber ducky.
I actually have a rubber ducky now for the first time in a very long time. It was a holiday gift from some record label. They sent out like Christmas rubber ducks to various radio stations, which I thought was kind of cute. So it's like sitting there on my bath. So for the first time in a long time, I've been enjoying having a rubber ducky at bath time. Do you still have a rubber ducky, you think?
I think there's some like up in the cabinet in the bathroom somewhere. Like, I haven't used it in a long time, but I swear to you, I was looking for something in the bathroom cabinet and came across one. I know there's one up there.
I actually had the rubber ducky in the tub the other day. It was one of those like rough weeks where I was just like, I'm going to shower later to get clean because I don't want to sit there in a tepid pool of my own filth.
Yeah, you always want to pre-shower before a bath.
I post-shower because, I kind of figure I'm going to get some like scunge from the bubbles in the water and any remaining residue. And yes, before you ask, bubbles. Absolutely. I mean, if you're going to do it, go all the way. No half measures when it comes to a bath. Epsom salts, bubbles. Let the pain of the week that you just had float the hell away. Although, can't put those essential oils in the tub anymore because apparently they give you big honking man boobs, as we discussed on the show earlier in the week. But I was all about the bath, and I actually had the rubber duck sitting there on the side of the tub, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to tally ho, the duck's going in. And I was sitting there in the bathtub with a rubber ducky floating around, and I really enjoy the rubber duck. I was all about the rubber duck, and for the first time in many, many years, I was all about the idea of having a rubber duck in the tub. And ironically, in the same week that I rediscovered the childhood joy of the rubber ducky in the old tubby tub, turns out that's really bad, and it's filled with dangerous bacteria. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. According to a new study by the University of Illinois, and this obviously is a little bit more pertinent if you're a parent and your kid has a rubber ducky. Did I sound significantly more like Ernie when I said rubber ducky?
I think it's subconscious. I think
so.
I think your brain
Rubber
wants
ducky.
you to.
Yeah, your brain wants to talk like this. Yeah. Rubber ducky's really bad for you. Could kill you. Dangerous bacteria. According to this new study by the University of Illinois, the Swiss Federal Institute of the Aquatic Science and Technology as well, your child's rubber ducky is a cesspool of dangerous bacteria. Researchers found that when they cut open rubber duckies, almost all of them had murky water inside, filled with fungus and bacteria. And the bacteria is in about 80% of them. Bad enough to get somebody sick, potentially bad enough to kill them if nothing was done about it. So what should you do? The researchers say that you should buy, goodbye rubber ducks for the common man. The researchers say that you should buy more expensive rubber ducks that are made from higher quality polymers, or throw out the rubber ducks that your kid plays with on a regular basis and swap in new ones. So look at rubber duckies as being disposable from here on in, because otherwise they could kill you.
When I squeeze you, you make noise. Rubber ducky, you're my very best friend, it's true. Oh, every day when I make my way to the tubby.
By the way, did you see? Were you a fan of the Muppets growing up? Was that a thing for you?
Oh God, yes. Yeah, I loved the Muppets. I loved Fraggle Rock. I loved it all.
I love Fraggle Rock.
Yeah.
Millhouse, my dog, looks alarmingly like a cross between Sprocket, the dog from Fraggle Rock, and an actual Fraggle, depending on what haircut he's got at that moment. But you know Frank Oz? Frank Oz was the original voice of Fozzie Bear and Miss Piggy and a whole bunch of other Muppets. Did you hear what Frank Oz put Disney on blast about what they were doing with the Muppets a little while ago? Did you hear about this?
No. What did he say? Or what were they doing?
This is the deal. Frank Oz says Disney isn't doing the Muppets right. He should know. He started working with Jim Henson back in the early 60s, and he helped develop and provide the voices for Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and Animal and Sam the Eagle, plus Sesame Street characters like Grover and Cookie Monster and Bert, who we just heard singing Rubber Ducky. But he hasn't been with the Muppets since Disney bought him in 2004, and he's not a fan of the new direction, and we're going to get into why next. Money making, skills on the mic, can be paid every day, and for part of the battle, just better act like you know.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah.
So a little later on in the show, we're going to talk about this woman who, she's trying to introduce legislation that would make it so men had to pay $100 a pop every time they wanted to indulge in the old bashing of the bishop, the old 5-knuckle shuffle, the old failure to master one's domain, if you know what I mean. You know, my other favorite term for it is that also comes from Seinfeld, Travis?
What is that?
When Costanza's mom comes in and says,
treating your body like an amusement park.
Treating your body like an amusement park.
I was trying to think of what it could be, and then when you said Costanza's mother, I was like, oh my God, I know it. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's so funny.
So uncomfortable.
It is.
I have to pat myself on the back for my stealth in that matter. When I was a young lad that lived at home, never once was I was a ninja when it came to treating my body like an amusement park. Never once caught, never once detected, never once. Yeah, no, I was, and I'm so glad, because that would be so unbelievably mortifying if somebody had ever caught me. It could have, it could have really destroyed something that was a lot of fun for me as a kid. and as an adult as well, if I had the negative association of being caught, that could have made things go horribly wrong.
I was at a friend's house. This girl, she was literally just a friend. I'm not even kidding. I'm not even lying about this situation. I was taking something over to her house while she was at work, and I was young. I was like 19 or 20. I just moved to Utah, and in her room, she had this magazine. I think it was like Cosmo, and I just dropped off whatever I was bringing to her house, and I was like, "Oh, cool, a magazine." And I took the magazine. I sat on the side of her bed, and I was just looking at the magazine. I don't even know what's in Cosmo, but I was just looking at it, and finished and tossed it on her bed, and left. And to this day, she's convinced that I was treating my body like an amusement park to the Cosmo. I wasn't.
Really?
I wasn't. I'm like, I don't even know what is in Cosmo, and she's like, I know what you did. I'm like, I swear to you. I'm like, I saw the.
Was she mad? Because honestly, if a guy did that in a girl's room without, her knowledge or her permission, that could be seen as predatorial, perverted, wrong, kind of assault. Or was it kind of, I know what you did? Or was she mad or not? Did she really suspect you of doing something nefarious?
I don't know. She played it off like a joke. I think I know for a fact she really does think I did it. And I swore to her. I was like, dude, why would I do that? I'm not unstable. I'm like, that's just crazy. And I have no idea. She herself is slightly unstable and slightly crazy. So I think maybe she was just looking for something that wasn't there. Cosmo. I don't even know what's in Cosmo. I have no idea. Somebody else's house. Are you kidding me? No. Yeah. I know.
I wonder if she's just judging you by her own example. Well, that's what I do to Cosmo when I'm alone in your bedroom.
Probably so. Oh my God. It's ridiculous. So I got caught without even being caught.
You got caught without even being caught. You got accused, which is somehow worse because, you didn't even get the...
I didn't even get to do it.
You didn't even get to,
I paid the fine. I didn't even get to commit the crime.
Yeah. You were master of your domain without any of the reward.
That's right. That's exactly what it was.
So disappointing. Anyways, we'll talk a little bit more about the Texas politician that wants to charge men $100 a pop to not master their domain a little later on in the show. Right now, though, back to what we were saying about the Muppets. Hey, if there's a show where you can transition from, once I was accused of doing something unseemly in my friend's bedroom, and I didn't do it too. The thing about Miss Piggy is, it's this show. So Frank Oz, in case you missed it earlier, Frank Oz said Disney isn't doing the Muppets right. He was the voice of Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and Animal and Sam the Eagle. He worked with Jim Henson back in the early 60s. He was also part of Sesame Street, Grover, Cookie Monster, Bert. That's all Frank Oz. But he hasn't been with the Muppets since the Disney bought them back in 2004, and he's not a fan of their new direction. Do you watch old episodes of the Muppets ever? Do you have them on DVD or do you ever catch them on TV?
No, if it was on Amazon Prime or if it was on Netflix or something and it was available to me and I had free time, yeah, I'd probably watch it, but do I have free time? And is it on Prime or Netflix? I don't think so. So I'm definitely not watching it anytime soon.
So I was a massive fan of the Muppets growing up. The Muppets in some ways kind of shaped my life. I really loved Animal. I loved watching Animal on the Muppet Show, and I loved the musical guests on the Muppet Show. And I remember telling my parents how much I loved Animal when I was 3 or 4. And that birthday, I got a drum kit, which was score. And it was all because I expressed an interest in Animal from the Muppet Show and been playing drums my entire life. And it shaped so much of it. So I kind of owe a debt of gratitude because I sort of, like where I ended up, but I kind of owe a debt of gratitude to the Muppets. And besides the fact that I loved it when I was a kid, I watched a couple episodes recently and I was like, man, this stuff plays just as well, if not better, when you're an adult. It was an incredible thing where there was such subtlety and there was such humor and there was such kind of intrinsic and hard to detect rebellion, which to me is the best kind, that came as part and parcel of the Muppets. And I just remember thinking, man, it's incredible how this really was fun for the whole family. It worked on so many levels. And I think therein lies the genius. It was amazing for kids and it was amazing for adults as well. And Frank Oz said something similar. He said, as much as Disney loves the Muppets and wants the best for the Muppets, and they truly believe that they can do it, they don't get it. They don't get the true rebellion and the true affection underneath those characters.
I think the problem is not unlike when any company takes over another company, that company feels they know what to do with it without actually understanding why that company is successful. And as much as Disney loves the Muppets and wants the best for the Muppets, and they truly believe they can do it, they don't get it. They don't get the true rebellion and the true affection underneath those characters. And by the way, I don't mean to knock Disney. It's just that I think they don't know, because I really think they really want to do a good job. I mean, but, for instance, they've never asked me. They really have not asked the performers how to do it. And if they just did that, the performers are so brilliant, instead of an outside person, and let the performers lead, then it'd be a whole different deal. And I think the audience would then appreciate the purity of that.
Did you see any of the rebooted Muppet stuff?
No, I didn't. I didn't even know that they had done a reboot.
They did a reboot of the Muppets, and it was kind of like, it was sort of in the style of a mockumentary. It was like the Muppet Show still existed, but it was like The Office. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was neat. It was sort of like, it was like the Larry Sanders Show or something like that. It was really an interesting concept, and I was all about it. And I remember, I think it started airing over a Christmas holiday a couple years ago, and finally I had time. Like, the rest of the year I'm going absolute breakneck speed, but I have like a week or two off, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to watch the Muppets. And I was just like, you couldn't ask for a better opportunity to hit it out of the park as the new version of the Muppets than what they did. They had a drum battle between Dave Grohl of Foo Fighters and, of course, Nirvana fame and Animal. I was like, this is going to be
that's cool.
Brilliant. And yeah, the idea is really cool. And I remember watching it being like, should have been a home run, swing and a miss, I'm afraid.
Oh, no.
And
are you serious?
yeah, I mean, look, by the way, just by itself, seeing Dave Grohl play drums with Animal is amazing. Like, just seeing that was incredible. But they could have done so much. I don't know. They could have done so much better with it. I guess. And it's weird to, wow, have we really spent like the last 15 minutes talking about Muppets? I think we have. How do we get onto this? Oh, it was the rubber ducky. It was the rubber ducky being filled with bacteria. But like, I guess the sad thing about it was that it left me cold. You know what I mean? Like,
oh no,
I was sort of like, I wanted to feel everything and I felt nothing.
Oh, that sucks. That's terrible.
Yeah. And I don't know if they're still airing the rebooted Muppet Show. I don't think that they are. I don't know. Like, Disney are kind of famous for doing this, though. They come in and they buy stuff and they go, that's nice. We no longer need your input. You know, like, yeah. I think they did that with Star Wars. Like, George Lucas was more than happy to give it up to Disney, and he was like, Disney, you're going to do the right thing with it. And then he apparently wasn't super cool with some of the choices they made for the new Star Wars movies. And people asked him, like, did they come to you and ask you anything? I mean, you are the creator of this. Did they, consult you? Did they ask you? Did they even run anything by you before they did it? He was like, nope, nothing. Like, they bought it, and I've never heard from them ever again. They seem to be very happy with it, but they have no interest in anything I have to say or what I have to think about it. So, I don't know. I guess if you're the company that came up with Mickey Mouse, there is a certain amount of swagger and audacity that you have. You know, like, oh, we kind of know what we're doing. You stay over there. But I don't know. I think it's sad because, like, honestly, and look, I know kids have other things that they watch now. Kids have things that I don't understand or relate to, or, I didn't grow up with that means the world to them. But I feel like a kid that's grown up in this day and age with a different version of Sesame Street, with a different version of the Muppets, is really losing something that is very special. And special in that, I think it was special in that the Muppets were for kids, but they didn't talk to you like you were kids necessarily. They sort of treated you like you were an adult. And I think that had a lot to do with the way a lot of kids were able to develop their minds and their way of thinking and things of that nature. Were you into Mr. Rogers? Are you all about this Mr. Rogers documentary that's coming out?
I haven't seen any of like the previews of it, but yeah, I loved Mr. Rogers. I mean, it was like a daily show that we would watch.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mr. Rogers is one of those guys where I'm just like, please don't ever let there be any kind of scandal or unpleasantness or anything that ruins the legacy of this guy that, gave so much to so many people in such a selfless manner. Like, it's one of those things that's so intrinsically beautiful and intrinsically pure that I'm just like, God, don't ever let anything besmirch this guy.
You know who another one is?
Who?
Bob Ross. You know it's true. You know it's true. Do you not love Bob Ross?
You know what's interesting? So Bob Ross is on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. And one night I was like, I'm just going to hang out in bed and watch Bob Ross as I fall asleep. I didn't realize this, but all Bob Ross ever paints is landscapes. Did you cotton on to this? I never watched it, and I never watched him. Yeah. So I didn't realize that's all he could paint. Like, he can paint landscapes. He can paint water and happy trees and sky, and that's it. Like, if you ask him to draw something with a right angle in it, not so much. Like, he was very much art's one-trick pony and had a glittering career based off of happy trees and clouds and yeah. You know Bob Ross? But you know what he did before he was a television painter?
Now, I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's true. Was he prior military?
He was an Army drill sergeant.
Yeah. Okay. I had heard that he was prior military, and but it's one of those things that I didn't know if like I had heard it and it was just like a wild internet rumor, or if it was actually true. No. So it is true.
Bob Ross was a drill sergeant. And what I'm going to need, Maggot, is for you to get down and give me 20 happy little push-ups before walking your sorry ass back to that canteen and thinking about how you've disappointed everybody in this platoon. Happy little push-ups. Yeah, but please don't leave Mr. Rogers alone, because I honestly think that guy is morally unimpeachable. Like, I think he really, really meant everything that he said and everything that he stood for. Another thing that I loved about Mr. Rogers was, do you remember the music from Mr. Rogers?
Yeah, wasn't it like real simple? Like,
No, it was highly involved, not for kids jazz music. Like, what? I mean, they had the little songs that they would sing, but the incidental music was like some kind of out there. You know what? I'll dig some up and we'll have a listen to some of it when we get back. But yeah, it was one of the things that I love so much about Mr. Rogers. And whenever I hear jazz music now, like I went to see Chick Corea over the weekend, who, by the way, unbelievable, once in a lifetime stuff, a brilliant jazz pianist. But I remembered what I love so much about the music of Chick Corea and jazz piano in general is it basically reminds me of Mr. Rogers and Snoopy cartoons for that matter too. But it was another thing that didn't dumb stuff down for kids and treated them like they had the sensibilities and the musical palette of an adult. And I think that meant so much to so many kids, whether they realized it at the time or not.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So this was the real beauty, I thought, of things like The Muppets and things like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. These were shows that were for kids. The Muppets was incredible because it worked on so many different levels. The Muppets, if you go back and watch those old episodes as an adult, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this was talking to my parents the whole time in the same way that it was talking to me as a kid. It worked on so many different levels, and that was the genius part of it. But there was also real heart to it and real rebellion to it. And it wasn't dumbed down for kids. It was for kids, but it didn't treat children like they were incapable of understanding or being in on the joke. And the same thing I think was magical about Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The music of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was done by this guy, Johnny Costa. And Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers, I think, talked to him, and Johnny Costa was like, I don't know if I want to play on a kid's show because I'm this really sort of advanced jazz pianist, and I don't know if I want to dumb myself down for kids. And Mr. Rogers gave him the message that you don't have to dumb yourself down for kids. This show is not about talking down to kids. This is about talking to children like they're real people. And he described it beautifully. Check this out.
When I play Good Feeling, you know, I didn't do it for the ears of a child. I didn't do it this way. I wouldn't do that, so I figured, well... Fred loved it, and I kept doing it, and the people loved it.
You know, I found this other thing. Do you remember when you were a kid, Travis, seeing documentaries? They weren't even documentaries. They were like little pieces of, they were little, I guess, films describing how things were made. Like, this is how crayons are made. This is how, like, the wax is poured into the mold, and this is how the wrapper goes around it, and this is how they're put in the box, and the boxes are shipped out. Do you remember those segments, like, that sort of broke down how things were accomplished?
Yeah, I absolutely loved them. Like, they were just, it was like learning about magic. Like, oh my God, they were amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can still watch that stuff, and there still is a magical quality to it, but especially when you're a kid. I think when you're a kid, and you forget this as you become an adult, but when you're a kid, you're always looking at the world, and you ask your parents a million annoying questions. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? You're always kind of trying to deconstruct stuff and figure out why things are the way they are in your mind. And whether that's a pack of crayons being made or something else, it's just magical when you kind of have that sort of stuff broken down and explained to you. I'll never forget this. This might have been my favorite bit of children's television ever. I can't believe I found it. You ever see it where Mr. Rogers, he kind of like, you take a peek behind the curtain, and he actually introduced the band. He introduced the band with Johnny Costa, and they're like this 3-piece jazz group that played live in the studio. When he sang, it wasn't to a backing track. There were real musicians in the PBS studios playing. But did you ever see it where he said, hey, I wonder if we could, you know, talk to you about how you create this music? And similar to the way they did it with a box of crayons, they're like, this is the wax, this is the paper getting wrapped around the crayon, this is it getting put into its box. They break the music down into the component parts, and I was just spellbound for this whole thing. Did you ever see this, Travis?
I never saw it, and I don't know how I missed that one because it sounds incredible.
It's genius. Listen to this.
If we could play some of that opening song of ours, you know, It's a Beautiful Day in This Neighborhood, but each one by yourself. Oh. Would you start?
Sure.
Yeah. It's a beautiful day in this... There's the piano. And Carl, would you play the bass violin, just that part? It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. Beautiful day for a neighbor, would you be mine? It's fun to hear that by itself, yeah. And Bobby, would you play your part? It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Oh, I like that. Yeah.
It's brilliant. Like, don't you get like little sort of chills listening to that? Like, can you imagine being a kid watching that being broken down in front of you, being like, oh my God, this is how this thing that I watch every single day is created? Like, it's magical. It's magical now to me as an adult. Am I on my own on this one, or do you feel the same way?
No, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, bro, I don't get little chill bumps. I get huge chill bumps because, like, even as an adult, like, you're a musician. So you understand what each instrument does. In fact, you're beyond a local band musician. You're a trained musician. So, I mean, you really get it. Just someone like me, I don't know what each instrument makes each sound and what each piece of their song is like. That, to me, is just like, I don't know that I've ever heard that. I don't know that I've ever heard each single instrument's piece of a song. Like, that is so cool.
It's so cool. And when you break it down and you use it to engage the curiosity of a child. And, you know, this was not intentional when we started the show today, but we started the show talking about how Joe Biden and Donald Trump, these guys in their 70s, are talking about how they want to go out behind the gym and kick each other's asses. And Joe Biden saying this stuff in Florida the week where children are marching through the streets saying, we just just really want a shot at a real life and not being in danger. We want something good to happen. We want sensible, cooler heads to prevail. And the leaders of the two prevailing political parties in this country talking about how they're going to kick each other's ass on Twitter. And then you go back to stuff like this and you go, oh man, maybe, just maybe we get too bogged down in all this stuff. And I know it sounds like a fanciful notion. I know it sounds idealized, but maybe, just maybe, we should be paying a little bit more attention to the children in this country. We should be paying a little bit more attention to what it is about childhood that makes life special and magical. We should be maintaining that which we are born with, the kindness and the curiosity of a child. We should be looking at kids going, you know, they've got some stuff figured out that we apparently have forgotten, and we forgot it a long, long time ago. Yeah, more of this.
Now, would you play just a little bit of it all together so we can listen to each part together?
Sure.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood. I think that really helps.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So Travis, how's the old fitness regime going? I mean, we're going to get into the part of the show where we talk about the fact that a Texas politician wants to charge men $100 every single time they romance themselves, if you know what I mean, and I think you do. But you're on this sort of health and fitness kick at the moment. How's that working out for you?
It's actually going really good. I'm trying to think. God, I haven't cheated, and it's been hard because I was at work for 12 days straight, so it was a little bit tricky to cheat, but not so many temptations. But no, I haven't cheated in 12 days, so it's been going awesome.
I thought a lot of people just eated crap food. Eated? Yeah. I thought a lot of people eated it. I talk professionally for a living. I've been called by many in positions of power and authority within the world of radio, the future of talk radio. And I just said, eat it. Yeah. Perhaps their confidence is somewhat misplaced. But I would imagine that a lot of people find that they eat lousy food while on the job, like vending machine food or whatever, like weird snack foods are around. You find it easier to eat healthy while you're at work?
Well, just because, like on a tugboat, you see, so the hard thing about it is, like the tugboats that I'm on, we've managed to find a pizza delivery place that will deliver to almost every dock we go to, which is terrible.
Oh, docks? I was like, no way. There's pizza delivery people that'll get on a boat and like dinghy out like a large pepperoni pie to you.
I wish so much. I do have friends who have dinghies who would probably go get it and bring it out to us. But
what about like Amazon delivering with drones? Can you get like a drone delivery in the middle of the ocean?
I sure would hope so.
Oh, man.
I mean, it's just a matter of time, right?
Yeah. I don't know. You'd know better than I would.
I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
So you eat healthier on the boat, huh?
Yeah. There's not so many opportunities to cheat. So I was, I knew I was going to be on for 12 days. So I just made sure to bring 12 days of, healthy, good diet food on the diet food. And then, but you'd be proud of me because I actually I want to say, I said there was not too many temptations. I probably walked past 4 pizza parties on different boats, and I actually even had to place the order myself for 2 of the pizza parties, and I did not touch a single slice.
Wow, look at you go. What about working out, exercise? Is it easy to maintain your fitness level on the boat?
Yeah, decently. Our boat's a fancy boat. Like we have a rower on board. Like we have a nice rower. We have a stationary bike.
That doesn't show real confidence in the engine.
for working out.
Right. That was cheap.
Good call. Good call. So yeah, no, it's not too bad at all. We have weights on board. I've gotten better workouts on that tugboat than I have in the gym, if you can believe that.
That's actually, I think what a lot of people struggle with all that sort of stuff is consistency. People to be like, you're building a new habit, bro.
It's the truth, though. It seriously is.
Well, here's comedian Joe List talking about that consistency.
I like lifting. My favorite part of lifting weights is that break in between sets where you kind of check your phone and go home for a couple of weeks. I'm enjoying that quite a bit. I don't like my gym, though. My gym's all like bodybuilders, which, no offense if you're a bodybuilder. I saw a guy the other day, though, at my gym. He was huge. He was like too big. You know that look where you're like, you're not supposed to be that big. So he was lifting weights in a way I've never seen before. Have you ever seen this? He had a thing wrapped around his head, and then there was a cord attached to weights, and he was lifting the weights with his. Have you ever seen that? He was screaming. He's like, ah! Ah! I was like, I think we have different fitness goals. I was on the elliptical. I'm like, that guy's a danger to society. What? I think if you get to the neck portion of your workout, you can go ahead and clock out, head home, and hug your dad for the first time in your whole life. You don't need to work out your neck. Not since I turned 1 year old have I thought, I need to strengthen up my neck a little bit. The first couple months of my life, I was like, oh, God, this isn't going to be strong enough. I can't. I need help. But then it just locked right into place. Look at this. I can just... And I got a 5-head. I could swing the whole thing right around. Never been an issue.
Last time I was at the gym, there was this one guy, and like he's been there numerous times before, but I kid you not, the guy sounds like he's auditioning for a role in an adult feature. Like he makes the loudest, most obnoxious lifting sounds you've ever heard. Like but like just really kind of overly erotic in the way they sound. I was like, the guy has to know he's doing it because like I go late, so there's not that many people in there. So it's like me, 2 other people, and this guy being like, and I'm just like, what are you doing?
Oh my God.
And so like the guy's in, I mean, you know, I'm not one of those guys that's like, hey, how much does this guy bench in? This guy, but the guy is clearly like no stranger to the gym. He's in there a lot. He looks like he's in very good shape. And I look over at him and he's like, and I was like, what the hell is going on there? And I was like, he must really be going for a personal best. He must be ready to pop a blood vessel. And he wasn't even lifting that much weight. I'm like, a guy his size doesn't need to expend amount of energy on 75 pounds. Like, that's just not a thing. Like,
I've never been a screamer. I can't bring myself to do it. Do you grunt or scream during the workout?
No, I try and limit it to some quiet, heavy. I'm English. I'm extremely self-conscious about literally everything. So like I feel bad about breathing too heavy. So no, I try and make as little noise as possible. But like the other night, I'm in there and guy gets going, and then meanwhile, there's this enormous dude on the treadmill singing to whatever the hell song he's listening to at the top of his lungs. I was like, am I being like, is this sort of some sort of like gym prank television show that I've wandered into? Because it makes no sense whatsoever. No sense, I tell you, no sense.
I had to stop working out with a friend because he was a screamer, and like. I'm not even joking. Like, I mean, he was great to work out with because like we lifted about the same amount, and like he was real motivational, but the screaming it was too much. And not only was he a screamer like on his own sets, but he was like an over motivator. So like I would go to do a set, like I'd be doing bench or something, and I'd come down with it, and it would be like the first one. I'm not even struggling yet. Okay. And he'd be like, come on. He's screaming. And I'm like, looking around, and I'm like, oh my God, this is humiliating. I can't keep doing this. I got
no time. And like, I'm not like, in no way, shape or form am I a gym bro. I go to sort of manage depression. We've talked about this in the past. Like, it's the exercise, it's the mental effect of the exercise that I appreciate. But somebody actually like, I was like, are you done with the bench press? Or like, are you done with the squat rack / bench press situation over here? If not, I'll find something else to do. And the guy was like, no, you can rotate in. I was like, that's not what I asked. And I was like, and I didn't want to be a jerk and be like, I don't want to work out with you. But so I did it, and like, and And the moment I touched the bar to do bench press, he's like, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this, you got this. I was like, oh, no.
You got a new gym friend.
No, I don't. I really don't. Yeah.
You do.
He showed up a couple more times. I'm like, 1001, 1002, gotta go, bye.
Oh my God. It's terrible. It's so bad, man. Especially when like I've had like, usually I'd work out with my dad or with some friends or something, and like you'd see people in there and you'd know like that they work out with other people. And I had one guy ask me at one point, he's like, oh, where's your dad at? I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. He had to work late tonight. And he's like, oh, well, hey man, let's work out together since my gym buddy failed to show up too. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, and this guy was one of those over motivators. And I'm like, I just got to get through this workout. Like, I don't even know if I can get through this workout. And it was so bad. Like, it was literally making me insane. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, no.
I don't know how people do it.
It's tough. I find myself to be a solitary creature at the best of times. And that's sort of like my me time as well. You know, like I can't do anything else. I can't work. If someone calls me, I let it go to voicemail. Like, no, thank you. Like, so no. I mean, it is a social place. You're going to have to share stuff with other people. I should expect that, but I don't want it. All right, Travis, let's do some news.
On Sunday, for the first time in 7 years, 60 Minutes had higher ratings among viewers under 50 than The Walking Dead.
I wonder if it had something to do with the generously double-breasted female that was on the air talking about our president. I wonder.
Oh.
Good for her, bringing news to a younger generation and educating the youth. Well done, Stormy Daniels. Go on.
Today is Respect Your Cat Day.
Or as Jennifer Aniston calls it, Wednesday. That was cheap. You know what? Respect Your Cat Day. I don't like the sound of that because that means like every other day is, you don't have to respect cats. Like, man, yeah. Look, I'm a dog person. That's well documented. But I don't think it's possible to share a living space with something warm and fuzzy that has a heartbeat and not grow to love it. Like, cats are the bomb. Why would anybody not? I'm now concerned that a day is necessary to respect cats and that the other 364 days of the year, the cats don't get the respect they deserve. I suppose dogs are like super popular because, you know, dogs are the greatest, literally the greatest. They're this thing that's been put on earth to love you and protect you, and all they want is to be your friend and be allowed to give you that love and protection. So a cat, I guess, maybe gets the short end of the stick in the respect department, but I feel bad that cats need a day specifically for respect. I'm just going to go out of my way to respect all cats everywhere, no matter what situation I encounter them in. All right, what else?
A former professional clown is running for Congress in South Carolina.
You know what? Why the hell not? Seriously, why? I'm all for it. Strict pie regulation, rubber chicken in every pod. Oh my God. Gotta believe he's a big proponent of carpooling. I like this idea. I'm all about it.
Oh, it's fun. All right. Texas politician proposed a bill fining men $100 for
not mastering their domain.
Yes, self-loving.
$100? Okay, how to break this down? Why? What's the logic behind this one?
She's trying to make a point, is all she's doing. And it's a point that's not going to be made very well in Texas. The bill says that anytime a man self-loves, he would be faced with a $100 fine. Also, a 24-hour waiting period if a guy wants a colonoscopy or a vasectomy, or if he wants Viagra. She's trying to make a point that women's health in the state of Texas, it's very, very difficult for women to get good health care and to get abortions.
And she wants men to pay $100 every time they treat their body like an amusement park.
Exactly.
Sounds like kind of a jerk.
Yeah. Oh, that's disgusting.
I'm
like, yeah, she doesn't sound very nice. Oh.
I would imagine that her political opponents are determined to beat this. Also defeat the bill. Okay, moving right along. What else?
Oh, Wow. An Ohio woman was arrested for making lewd comments to the Easter Bunny.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard about this. This woman was, I think it was at a mall, and this woman was sort of making lewd comments to the Easter Bunny, then also berating them, and I think it wound up devolving into like a fight or some sort of altercation with a mall Easter Bunny. Yeah, well, there you go. That's what you get, Travis, for having a hair trigger.
Please make it stop.